Hello, this is the Hovering Light. I'm Mary. I simply give a conservative perspective about the world around me. Now, let me give you some tidbits that I like to do in the beginning of the show. So, you can find me on Minds and then on Twitter for my social plugs, and I'm working to develop that and grow that. So it's simple to find me on Minds and Twitter. Just look for the Hovering Light, and you can find me that way. Or the Harbor on Minds, and you can find me that way. And I feel free to reach out to me because I really enjoy feedback, and that's the least I can do for all of y'all. So feel free to do that. And also keep in mind that on the different platforms that I'm on Anchor, as you know. I'm on Spotify, and I'm also on iHeartMedia. I'm growing and developing on that, and I'm also on the Audible, and I'm also on Amazon Music, and I'm growing that too as well. So I'm working on that. As previous, I did a podcast with my husband, and on this podcast, we will also be talking with each other, and I'm working on doing a more full-length podcast. So this is the second series of that, and I'm working on having that go on toward the end of the month, every month, and then I'm going to start developing where I have frequent shows with just me. So this is a work in progress, so please bear with me with all of that. So let's get right into this. So on the topic for this podcast is about immigration and our points of view on that. So Gary, how do you feel about that? What are your thoughts, your concerns about immigration and all that?
Well, I think there's a big misconception when it comes to immigration in the United States. A lot of people think that the United States doesn't want anybody to immigrate here, that it is either very hard or it's filled with racist people who don't want other people, when in actuality that's not true. By the numbers of the immigration statistics, we're one of the countries that has the most immigrants that come in. We also have the least amount of immigrants, meaning people who leave, because when you're an immigrant, you immigrate to somewhere, but you're also immigrating from somewhere. Funny how that is, that the same word basically means the same thing, whether you're moving to or from a place. So you look at countries that have really high immigration numbers on people leaving, they don't have the same numbers of people coming in. It'll either be really high of immigrants leaving or really high in immigrants coming in. Or really high on immigrants leaving and really low on immigrants coming in. Because most of the places people leave, they don't want to be there. Places with high immigration numbers of people coming in usually don't have very high immigration numbers of people going out. So that goes to show that, the people who get there, the people who are there don't want to leave. There's actually immigration statistics that show that the United States receives more immigrants, people coming in, and has less immigrants and people going out than most other places. We're top of the list on a lot of these, actually. I'll get it pulled up really quick.
Okay. To add on to this conversation that my husband's talking about, from my point of view, I see it as the whole perspective of people saying, well, being a immigration being an issue, and it's to go back to the topic about America and American ideology and why that seems as a negative topic. Immigration, it can't, here to America, it can't be all that bad if people want to immigrate here. And again, I think it all boils down to a lot of people wanting to immigrate from different countries here still, and it's continuing to develop and grow. It's because you get back what you put in your work isn't wasted. Everything that you're trying to build up isn't in vain. And I think that unfortunately a lot of people forget that aspect of why people want to come to America. And that's something that should be revisited, because again, as I was speaking on the topic of America, if you want to do something, if you go through the right channels and you take all the steps that you want to take to be a citizen in America, you have a good life as long as you want to put in the work. And I think that we all should understand and appreciate that. So the Sassy you were saying about?
Well, before I get into that, no, I completely agree. Excuse me. Location shouldn't determine immigration. Meaning that it's unfair to a lot of people that because of physical location, some people jump the line. And that's the biggest issue that a lot of people have with immigration, especially immigration across our southern border. Because we're geographically connected to these places where people can travel through, we get unfair amounts of immigration from our southern border, through our southern border, from not even just Mexico, but South America, of people traveling up through migrant caravans coming in to the United States. But them doing that is selfish, because they're putting out other people who could immigrate with an I. So immigrants with an I is people from another country that move to a country. Immigrants with an E is somebody who moves from their country of birth to another country. And so the top 10 countries with the highest number of immigrants, foreign-born residents, in the United Nations in 2020 was the United States, number 1, with 50.6 million people. The next closest, number 2, is Germany, 15.8 million people. That's more than double. More than double the amount of immigrants than the number 2 spot. The sad thing is, you take the number 3 spot, Saudi Arabia, 13.5, and the number 4 spot of Russia with 11.6, and you still don't meet what we take in of immigrants. Add in number 5, the United Kingdom, and that starts getting you closer. That gets you about 10 million away. Add in number 6, and that gets you, which is the United Arab Emirates, which gets you at about. So it takes the next 5 countries in the top 10 list to total the amount of immigrants that we have coming in.
Yeah, and then also to add on to what my husband is saying. So, okay, so it's fair. You don't have to go through a lot. From my point of view, you don't have to. If you want to be immigrate and be a citizen in America, you don't have to go through a lot of hoops in order to get that citizenship. So please correct me, Garrett, if I'm mistaken. In the Vatican City, for example, you have to at least be a resident for about 7 to 10 years or so, and after that, it's on a case-by-case basis if they feel that you're suitable or deemed to be part of.
Right. I believe so. I do know the Vatican City is one of the hardest places to immigrate to because they limit it so much due to resources and things like that.
Right.
But that's not even as bad as some of these places. A lot of Middle Eastern countries, if you want to immigrate there, you have to change your religion.
Yeah.
You have to denounce your religion and become Muslim. Mm-hmm. And if you're a woman who wants to immigrate there, you have to be married to a Muslim man to be able to immigrate to one of these countries.
Right.
But, you know, there are a lot of other places that have a lot greater hoops to jump through than the United States. There are a lot of other places where it's a lot more expensive to immigrate to the United States. But I wanted to get into, or at least point out, the top 10 countries with the highest number of immigrants with an E, former residents that are living internationally.
Okay, let's talk about that.
The number one is India, 17.9 million people. Number two is Mexico with 11.1 million people. Number three is Russia with 10.8 million people. So you look at that top three. Number 1 and 2 aren't in the top 10 of people moving to it. You get to number 3, Russia, which has almost the same amount of people moving in as moving out. You have 11.6 million people moving in 2020, 10.8 million people moving out in 2020. You know, and then you get China in at number 4, Syria, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Ukraine, Philippines, and Afghanistan. You look at the locations to where most of these people are immigrating to, and the majority of these millions of people are immigrating to the United States.
Why do you think that?
Honestly, I mean, I couldn't tell you. Like I said, in that top 10, there's an insanely high number of immigrants by population. The United States being leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else of people moving in. But you look at some of the lowest numbers of people moving in, and you have Belarus, Brazil. The bottom 10 are Belarus, Brazil, Ethiopia, Uzbekistan, Mexico, which is number 2 on people moving out, Peru, Nigeria, Venezuela, Greece, Sudan, New Zealand, Chile. Well, that's actually top 12. I mean, these places have less people moving out of them than Hong Kong, China.
Right.
Or moving into them than Hong Kong, China. More people are moving in to Hong Kong, China than Mexico.
Right.
And then you want to see the people moving out. Again, India, Mexico, Russia, China, Syria. These are people that are born there that are leaving. On the inverse, you get down to the bottom 10, the bottom section of the list. Belarus is at the very bottom. Again, nobody's moving there, but nobody's leaving there either. So I guess, that's the trade-off. But then you have Spain, Peru, which is number 3 again, El Salvador, Burkina Faso, Dominican Republic, Nigeria, Bulgaria, Cuba, Haiti. People they have the least amount of people that are moving away. You know, you ask yourself, like, why are there these numbers? Like, how is it that 15% of the American population in 2020 is immigrants, but people want to say that we have such restrictive means of
representation?
Of people immigrating. Like, we're supposed to make it so hard to immigrate. You know, Germany, with 15 million immigrants, it's 18.81% of their population. So our population number is so much higher of natural born residents, but we're still taking in so much more. And then if you want to say, oh, well, total percentage of population, you look at the United Arab Emirates, 88% of their population is immigrants. So the reason for that is nobody's from there. People move there.
Right.
You know, that is just about their entire population is immigrants. But on the inverse, India only has a population of immigrants of 0.35%. I mean, you look at some of these places, and you know, it just makes you wonder how people can say we're so restrictive on the amount of people who can immigrate. China's immigration population is 0.07%.
Right.
But it's so hard for people in America, so racist.
But I just think it's a lot of people who feel that way are pushing projecting a certain agenda, and that's unfortunate that it bleeds into being a mainstream thought. So, and I think if people have honest conversations, as I repeat throughout my podcast, and I'll continuously say that people just need to sit down and have honest conversations about it. Like, you know, why does it always seem that it has to be a certain way? Is it something that is actually a representation of fact, or is it just something that's projected internally of what these people are they think, but they just can't say it? Yeah, if you know what I mean, where I'm getting the point I'm getting across.
No, I completely understand the point. So, you know, we were both born and raised in Texas.
Yeah, right.
You know, I get the opportunity to live a lot of other places growing up, but also I get the opportunity to live a lot of other places as an adult. Now, I have a friend, his name is Charlie Dominguez.
Okay.
Charlie was a former illegal immigrant. He was deported 3 times before finally getting married, having kids and stuff, and living here still as an illegal immigrant, but it was his wife who fought for him to become a nationalized citizen.
Right.
Because even with his kids, he could still be deported. That's one of the things that I find funny. People want to talk about, you know, male privilege and men having more power. What's funny is if an illegal immigrant from anywhere is in the United States and they happen to be female and they have a child here in the United States, that child is an American citizen.
Right.
Birth certificate number, everything. The mother cannot be deported, even though the father, who is a citizen, is here in the United States, who is a United States citizen, is here. And he has the ability to raise the child and to care for the child and things like that. The mother cannot be deported, or would not be deported. A man who comes over, gets a woman pregnant, who is illegal, would still be deported, even though he has kids. if he's not married.
But there's no privilege, right?
Right. Well, what's funny, okay, so Charlie, back to the story anyways. That's besides the point.
Right. Yeah.
Charlie immigrated to the United States the first time, he told me, crossed the border when he was 16 years old from Durango, Mexico. Got on a truck, he paid $500, and some coyotes got him across the border.
Okay.
They dropped him off in the middle of nowhere, telling him he was in Texas. Didn't tell him where he was, told him that if he wanted to know where he was, he would have to pay them more money. He said no. So they left. He walked around for a little while, trying to figure out where he was. Finally ended up crossing the Texas-Mexico border again. Well, I say again, but actually for the first time, because they never actually brought him into the United States.
Oh.
He was still in Mexico. They just drove him out into the desert of Mexico and told him it was the United States, expecting him to walk around and die, but he just happened to walk around enough to get picked up by immigration, by Border Patrol in Texas. Of course, they deported him, but he was a minor here, and he also told them that he would got picked up by the cartels, and they drove him out into the middle of nowhere and abandoned him in the desert during the summer, I guess expecting him to die. So of course they want to know why, and he made up something. From what he tells me, he made up something. At 18, he tries again. This time, instead of paying somebody to help him, he just travels up to the border himself. He gets to an area where he can cross, and he crosses into Texas. Again. This time he lives in Texas for about 3 years. 2-3 years, he said. When he went out with some friends drinking, he got into a fight, got arrested, and then got deported for being an illegal immigrant again, of course. So, gets deported again, gets back home, goes back home to his mama, stays there for another year or two before he decides he's going to cross the border again. Third time.
Okay.
Crosses the border again, living, working, doing all this stuff, but this time he meets a woman. Heather.
Okay.
Him and Heather have children. Around the time their oldest child is 6, starting kindergarten, she is hounding him to get a lawyer, and she's been hounding him all this time so that they don't have to worry about him being deported again, and her being all alone with the kids and him gone and in Mexico. So they get a lawyer, and he goes through everything. But for him to become a U.S. citizen, he has to voluntarily surrender himself to Border Patrol, move back to Mexico, and live there for, I can't remember how many months he said. I think it was 3 months, 90 days. He had to be there at least 90 days. Petition the government and stuff to move here, to become a citizen. His retainer for the lawyer was $10,000. And he paid that through payments the entire time he was living here and working here. He was paying this lawyer a little bit of money of each paycheck. The lawyer helped him get a work permit so that he could file taxes and help pull some strings. And I'm not 100% sure on exactly how they did it, but help pull some strings with some stuff. But he could take care of his family. He pays the lawyer off, moves back to Mexico, becomes an American citizen after having kids and everything else. Took 90 days, 3 months after the fact. And all he had to do was go back home. 3 months. What I don't understand is we give work permits to Mexican citizens, to people who travel across the border to work, whether it's seasonal or other things. They get paid a lot more than they would. You know, it is hard labor and things like that, but they get paid a lot more for these things than what they would doing the exact same job in Mexico. When they get that money, they can save and they can do everything to immigrate the legal and correct way.
Yeah.
But instead, they don't. Some do, but they don't. Most don't. I don't understand how that is. You know, if you want to be here, be here. If you don't. You know, I get tired of hearing people say America isn't the greatest country in the world, because it is.
Yeah, you know, and I've seen this, I've read about this and I've seen this firsthand. So for instance, from an educational point of view, so a lot of innovators, you know, for instance, if I'm not mistaken, the founders of Yahoo, one of them was on a student visa, and you know, look at that, what they're turning to, and then taking the diligence and the discipline to go do everything that they had to do to go to school, but on top of that, make sure that they were citizens, so they can stay and continue to innovate and continue to develop their goals and their dreams, you know. And then when I started college, and I started in community college, and then I went to a Christian school until I went to the University of Houston, but that goes out saying. So in my experience from starting college and finishing at the U of H, I met so many students and had friendships and everything with immigrant students there to learn and to go to school and to want to do everything to better themselves. Most of them, they just came there from nothing, and they were on their own. They did it they would send money back to their family, which is a good thing, because most people don't forget that aspect of taking care of family and thinking about family, because that's how most of the students who I spoke with and had friendships with, they would send home money back to their families and help. But at the same time, they left behind because they knew what they wanted to go after, and it was hard for them to do something like that, but they did it. And I don't see how you can just say right off that America isn't the greatest place to live when people make so many tremendous sacrifices just to be here.
Right. Well, 50 million people coming into the United States. Oh, that's what I want to do. Something I wanted to look up as well. The amount of people who move from the United States. So, the United States is The United States is 26 on the list of immigrants.
Wow. Okay.
Of people moving from the United States to another country. 26. Total number of immigrants. We have 50 million people moving here each year.
Yeah.
Or in 2020, we had 50 million people, residents, who were born from somewhere else. That's people who reported that they were born somewhere else. Numbers probably higher than that. Only 2,996,223 people moved from the United States.
Yeah, and then
Germany, the number 2 country for immigrants, people moving to Germany, has 3,855,000 people moving from. They have more people moving away than they do. That almost, they almost have more people moving away than they do moving in. They're almost even. They're higher on the list. Percentage-wise, the gap of people moving here versus moving away is unbelievable. There's a 7 million person gap almost, or 12 million person gap in Germany. There's a 48 million person gap here in the United States. And that's another thing that's funny. Most illegal immigrants here in the United States aren't even people who moved here illegally, cross the border illegally. They're like, people who get scholarships here, who come to school here, who get work visas and school visas and things like that, who just stay longer than they're supposed to.
Right. Yeah.
They get the visa, their visa expires, they stay. They have friends here, they have life, they have a job, they have all these other things here that nobody's checking. And that's one of the things. It's a matter of fairness. People want to talk about, sure, life's not fair and all that. Agreed. Life isn't fair. But with how unfair life is, you would think that these people who are sacrificing everything to get here would understand that there are other people who wish that they could just walk to the United States, but you can't walk across the ocean.
No. Right.
And that's the problem. The people who don't have that ability, they have to follow the rules.
Yes.
Or they don't get to come here.
No.
And that's what's sad about it. It's a sad system, but it's worse when people try to utilize that system for their political agenda and other such things. When the United States was formed by immigrants.
Yes, absolutely.
We are of immigrants.
Right, because the founding fathers, like you're saying, George Washington Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton, more along the lines of George Washington, and they came from Britain, and they said it was just, they couldn't take the Puritan perspective of life, that you have to be it's pretty much it's an imperialist sort of mentality, the way things went, and what they were experiencing with Britain. They said, we must be this way, you must think this way, this is the only way. If you don't think this way, that you are not with us, you can't serve with us, you can't be with us, and if you're ostracized if you think any other way. So they just, you get to a point where enough's enough. If you want to be honest with yourself, and if you are really determined to change, you'll make a change. And I think that's how they just bond together and band and say, we need to form a republic, a true republic that is for the people. And that's how, that's the American roots.
Right. Nobody, if you go back far enough, there's really not anybody who's native to America. That's one of the things that's kind of aggravating. We were like, well, the natives. Well, depending on who you talk to and what they believe, most of these people traveled here from across the Bering Strait, through a land bridge, and they took small boats and puddle jumped their way here from Africa. You have tribes of people who just moved here. Why? Well, because they needed to. So you have these people who are just moving here, hundreds of thousands of years ago, millions of years ago, however long, that leaves that to smarter people than me. Set up residence, and they call it that. And then other people move here, and they fight over it, and they war over it, and they kill over it, and that's how it was. People say, oh, well, this land is stolen land, and it's built on this and built on that. It's really aggravating. And they say that's why America isn't the greatest country.
Yeah,
because it's stolen land.
We're oppressed. There's so much oppression. There's so much this. There's so much
built on the backs of slaves.
Right. Which is not the case.
It's like, well, all land is stolen land. It was all stolen from somebody. One tribe stole it from another tribe. No matter how far back you go, people fought. People fought for resources. They fought for food. They fought for shelter. They fought for safety. People fought so that they could survive. That's what you had to do. You had to fight. You had to fight so that you could survive, so that you would have the opportunity to fight again tomorrow. And in that, people were satisfied. They were, I don't know if you could say they were happy. They were satisfied nonetheless.
Right.
And that's what's sad. You have people who are still fighting to get here. Sacrificing, dying. All these things to get to the United States. Just to be told by some of these other people, usually people that are very well off, highly educated, whatever that means, highly educated, and telling these people who sacrificed a lot, who sacrificed family, who sacrificed loved ones, who sacrifice their youth, their well-being, their job. They give up a lot of people have given up a lot of things to come to the United States.
Yeah.
And you'd have people here who say, well, this place isn't even the greatest place because based off education, we're only ranked this. Well, okay. Name one other nation that has as many people educated as we do.
Right.
That has a sheer amount of population educated. Oh, we don't have free education. Sure, but we have more people going to college. You know, we have one of the largest populations in the world. You know, if you go by numbers, you can't argue. You can't argue that somewhere else has more people educated than us. You know, you can try to say, oh, well, these places have free healthcare. And these places have, you know, some benefit that we don't have. But you look at what they don't have. They don't have our population numbers.
No.
They don't have our population issues either.
No.
You know, and that can be, you know, people want to blame a lot of things. Sure, blame the government, blame the government, blame the people, blame the system, blame capitalism. You know, you can blame whatever you want to blame.
And
but the truth is, you can't compare apples to bananas.
No. And then to, for instance, you know how it's the most popular means of trying to say a system that works. So Norway, countries like that, people don't understand these countries are highly homogenous. Homogenous, and they're very nationalist. Okay, so there's not a whole lot of room for an influx of immigration and an influx of different ideas. It's just, I mean, that's the reality of the situation, excuse me, but nobody really wants to say that, which is bizarre. But what do you think?
Yeah, no, that's true. Sorry for the noise that y'all are hearing in the background. I'm making a wallet. No, that's something that's very true. We have places where, you know, everybody is one color. Everybody's one race. They all speak one language. They all believe similar things, that have all these things, but that's what some of these people say we should be doing. That's what they say we should have.
And it goes against the American value and
America is a melting pot.
Right.
You know, America is a nation of people. Of people from different places.
Right.
From different backgrounds. From the thing they all have in common is they came here to have a better life.
Yeah, and the whole idea of homogeny, there's so many cases of that. When you try to homogenize, especially when you start out doing that with introducing grade school children, and you know, with diverse backgrounds, and trying to homogenize them and to fit one sort of social aspect of whatever that might be, or you know, for instance, homogenize them by wearing the same type of uniform, or this. It has a lot of psychological damage and a psychological downfall to that, and to try and say that countries like Norway and all this is the standard, isn't that sort of a backward thinking of growth. What do you think about what I'm saying?
Yeah, no.
Do you have any other things to add on to what I'm saying?
Yeah, that is the point. These places that everybody likes to say are better. They ignore the fact that all of the people there are exactly the same. They don't have the unique issues that the United States has. But a lot of the United States' unique issues are here not because of the people moving here, but because the people who were born here, who forgot that the purpose of this place was to be a place of freedom for people without a country,
right? For
people from other places. The thing that all of these people had in common was that they were coming here for a better life.
Right.
They wanted to start over. That is the American dream. The American dream that people like to say is dead, but it's not. The American dream is that I can move. I can risk everything to go here. I can work hard. And in my hard work, I can become something. Not for me, but for my family, for my children, for my children's children. We have people that moved here, worked their butts off, did everything they could, because where they were was so much worse. But America's not the greatest country.
Right.
They gave up everything in their homeland to come here. But America's not the greatest country. That's what I don't understand. That's what I have a hard time getting. Why would people sacrifice everything they sacrificed to come here? To do all the things they did if America's not the greatest country? You don't do that for mediocrity. Nobody says, that place looks about average. That place looks horrible. Let me sacrifice everything I have to go there. Some people say, it's because we have more opportunities than where they come from. If they could, they would stay. If they had the opportunities there. The fact that there's more opportunity here argues the point of we are greater than where they came from. We are 50 million stronger because of the people who've moved here. And again, since they're reporting, it's most likely legal immigrants. That's, not 100% sure how the statistics counting, and if it is counting illegal immigration as well, awesome. It's great that they can do that. Most likely, though, it's an estimate of illegal immigration. Now,
as you were saying,
people don't risk everything to go somewhere that's mediocre. People don't give up everything they have to go somewhere that's just alright. People don't save money, spend tens of thousands of dollars to plan a trip to Disney, pay thousands of dollars to fly, hotel, expensive tickets, expensive food, expensive drinks, because it's a alright experience, because it's 50th in education and this and that and all these things. They do it because it's an experience that is
like no other,
right. It's great. It's a great experience. It's something that most people are lucky if they get to experience it once.
Right.
There's a lot of people who don't get to go to Disney, just like there's a lot of people who don't get to immigrate to the United States who desperately want to. So it's really unfair and disheartening when people discourage, saying America doesn't want immigrants, America's racist, America's X, Y, and Z, when all we really want is for people to give that opportunity and let the people who aren't geographically benefited, geographically privileged with living in a country that is connected by a land bridge, that the opportunity to be able to come here, to be able to experience it. Imagine if you couldn't go to Disney because Florida had a population limit,
right,
and they only allowed so many people to go, but because of the amount of people who were going there illegally, sneaking into Disney, made it to where people who bought tickets and did everything the right way may not be able to go because their park is full.
Right.
The park is at capacity because of people who snuck in. Not people who bought tickets, not people who saved, but people who just happened to live across the street from Disney. Snuck in. They decided, I want to go. I don't care to wait. And they snuck in. They could. They're close enough to where they can get in. They know the secrets. They paid a park employee $100 to sneak them through the gate.
Right.
And they may get caught and kicked out. But most likely, statistically, they're not going to. How fair is that to the people who drove from Washington State, that flew down from Alaska to go to Disney? How fair is that to them? They didn't have the opportunity to just go because they live next door.
Right.
They had to make plans. They had to do all kinds of things to be able to get there.
And I would say, to add on to this, I know it's gonna furrow and feather up, certain people, which is unfortunate. But you got to be honest if you want to talk about it. I think that from an educational point of view and also from a professional work point of view. Okay, so let's start with the educational point of view. I think it's the same merit of what you're saying, right? So let's say you take the measures, right? You're taking all the measures. You study hard. You do everything well with the pre-SATs, ACTs, everything, right? And you get the grades. You do all the work. You do all the due diligence, right? You earn the right to be in school. You earn your right to develop your knowledge, your everything that you want to know in school. But here comes affirmative action, right? They say, hey, why don't we mix this into the scenario? You're not what we deem as represented all the time. So we're going to use affirmative action to help you get in here, right? But wait, hold on. I thought education was supposed to be about merit. It shouldn't be about where I came from, how I look, right? And so when you take those different routes, let's say one student did all the measurements of what they need to do to get into, a university, or whatever university they want to go to, and the other one got in there through affirmative action, and that way, whether they want to admit it or not, the person that got in there, a lot of time, 9 times out of 10, they don't feel like they earned it, and they feel like it was just you can see it without them saying, and they can see it without them realizing sometimes that it weighs on them, and it starts to form a chip on their shoulder where they know that they don't really deserve to be here, because they were just there because somebody felt, if you want to be honest, which I'm going there, somebody felt sorry for them, and they said, well, in the worst way, in the wrong way, and said, well, we don't think you actually measure up or you're smart enough, so we're going to just use affirmative action just to verify our own narrow ideas about you. And you can take it if you want, but it's up to you. Right. So here it is. And then when you get to the job sites, where corporate America or what have you, working in different sectors, retail, restaurant, rig, what have you, blue, white collar, whatever, however you want to mix it in. So let's say one of them, like I gave the example before about education. One, they have all this experience. They they know a lot of people. They've worked hard through the ranks and everything to get to where they are, right? But another person, they don't have that much experience, but they know a lot of people, or a lot of people let them get by because of their looks, or let them get by, oh, you have this certain type of education, okay, yeah, let's see how that works. And or you hit these markers, you're a woman, you're LGBTQ plus whatever, the rainbow up in the sun it is now, and you meet all these tier and these markers, and you start to believe in us against them kind of system, and you see how that weighs heavy in the social and the political dynamics of the work environment, and it's very polarizing, to say the least. So, yeah, what do you think about those type of dynamics?
And it's justified discrimination.
Right.
Affirmative action is justified discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know what? We've got too many Asians. Sorry. You can't come.
You work too hard. You're too smart.
We just have too many Asians, so
right.
we can't have any more Asians. Even though you grew up and from next door of where this transgender, pansexual, transracial, black Zer is
right.
from, grew up in the same neighborhood, went to the same schools, scored higher on all the tests because you worked harder.
Right.
You're not getting in because geographical location means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Will Smith's children are considered oppressed due to the color of their skin.
That's beyond me. It's just outrageous. It's ridiculous.
And a 38-year-old homeless vet is considered their oppressor because of the color of his skin is wrong. And if anyone wants to try to argue that isn't wrong and try to say that somehow a man on the street is more privileged than two wealthy kids who never had to work for anything that they have, who were privileged enough and lucky enough to have a father who became famous, who wants to say that they're oppressed just solely based off the color of their skin and that they're not receiving benefit from their lineage is ridiculous. This whole whiteness, it's gotten to the point to where you don't even have to be white now to have whiteness.
No.
And that's stupid. You have people who don't know anything, who are blatantly ignore history, ignore facts, ignore all kinds of things, trying to say that everyone that's not them, that doesn't agree with them, is bad or racist or ignorant or these things. Speaking of immigration, a lot of people say, well, my family, my ancestors, they didn't have the choice to immigrate. They were brought here. Well, sure, they were. They were also taken to Denmark, Sweden, Finland, all these great places that people like to say, are great. They had slaves too there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these places had slaves. Because guess what? Slavery existed before America was a dream. Slavery existed before Christopher Columbus, hell, Leif Garrett, for that end, was a shining light in his father's eye before he drug his mother into the cave and had his way with her. Because slavery, existed in ancient Samaria. It existed in Egypt. And what's that mean? Slavery existed in Africa before it even existed in the United States, before the United States was created. Slavery existed in Africa. But you have these people that will argue, well, it was a different type of slavery. The slaves weren't treated as poorly as they were here. It's just like the way they say, well, the way white settlers treated Native Americans is just horrible. Well, considering that most Native American tribes fought over land and resources and stuff the same way everyone else did, and considering the fact that they would kill any male of fighting age that wasn't willing to convert and take on their tribal ways and pass their test and all of these things, is sad. When they were moving Native Americans, indigenous people, to reservations, there were white people amongst them. Hell, the last chieftain of the Cherokee tribe was half white. Because his mother was a white woman. His father was a native. His mother was taken in. She converted to the Cherokee tribe. She did what she needed to do to survive. And she had a son that became the last chieftain of the Cherokee tribe, who was half white. But, white people were horrible to the natives. Sure, they took advantage. They did a lot of things. Nobody's perfect. But to act like these atrocities didn't exist before, the 17th century is ridiculous.
And then, also, why is it that a lot of people don't want to delve deep into things for what they actually are, as far as with slavery, especially slavery in the American culture set in mind? You want to go back and look at it. Why is it always depicted as, they were taken against their will? But how can you say they were taken against their will, but yet until they created everything and had all these wits? That seems like that's counterintuitive and very insulting. Why don't you try and see things for what they actually are, that it was a means to an end? For, unfortunately, they were just seen as business commodity. You want to boil down to it,
a resource.
It's just resources to trade, and okay, their own people were trading them,
right?
And they were the ruthless. They're more ruthless than
and that's
white.
The argument. That's
right.
That's the point that people don't want you to hear.
Right.
That's what they want you to forget. It's what they want to ignore.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't. Dutch slave traders didn't go on to Africa with nets, run around capturing these black people. Because you ask some people, you ask, black supremacists, the black supremacist,
right? Yeah, supremacy.
Who say black people created everything. Black people founded religion, language, just everything. All this stuff. They're the creators of it. It was stolen by white men.
Right.
They're the greatest warriors. So you're saying that somehow these Dutch settlers went in with nets and captured the creators of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow.
Right.
Can't explain how. It's more. What makes more sense, a lot more sense, is these tribesmen fought against other tribes for natural resources, took their men and the women who refused to convert, and that they thought they could get something for, took them, sold them, and traded them for weapons and resources to these Dutch slave traders who were coming in, so that they could do it more, because they wanted the power. They needed to worry about their tribe, their people. And yes, they were brought to the United States. They were brought to the Americas. They were taken to Europe. They were taken to Spain. They were taken to all these places. I would really like to know one nation that existed, one place that existed in the 1700s, 1600s, 1500s that didn't benefit from slavery. Just one would be nice.
Right.
Because everywhere benefited, And it wasn't even just people from Africa who were brought here forcefully. People want to say, Irish people, they weren't slaves. They were indentured servants. They owed a debt. Well,
that's better than...
Right, that's supposed to be better. The sad thing is, if my father made a deal, owed somebody money, a lord money, and my father was kicked in the head by a horse,
right,
and was unable to work. Well, guess what? I inherited his debts, and I am set to pay him off. So now I have to work in my father's place to pay off his debts to someone. And because my father cannot work, I have to be taken care of. And because it costs to care for a child,
right,
my debts now
of the children
that I inherited from my father are growing, because I'm not worth much. I can't make that much money.
Right.
So my debts start outweighing my income. So I get even more in debt.
Yeah.
call it what you want. Say it's no better. Say it's no worse. But it was the same. Indentured servants were killed. They didn't have the same rights as other people. They were forced to go where they wanted. They could be sold. Their debts could be sold off to a different debtor who may treat them a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it was. But these people also didn't have a choice in coming to the United States. A lot of them were told, we're moving.
Right.
Some of them ran. They were usually hunted down, hobbled, and taken back. The treatment wasn't much different, for the Irish, for the Chinese, for other people who were here from these other places. It's sad. We all got here in different ways. What people need to focus on is the fact that we're here. No matter how we got here, we're here. Celebrate the fact that we're here. Celebrate the fact that our voices have meaning. And that no matter what means we got here, we're equal in it now. Doesn't matter about the past. Doesn't matter about people I never met. This generational trauma theory, generational trauma, it's garbage. People will say, well, my grandmother's grandmother was a slave. They were released and they passed down that to their grandmother. It's like, okay, you're 6 generations removed, 7 generations removed from slavery. Sure, there were Jim Crow laws, there were all these things that that people just ideally forget were mainly Democrat-led, but yet they still vote for the Democrats who are still pushing for a lot of these laws and stuff that weakened black people and hurt them in certain different ways, but we'll ignore that. It's a different topic.
Mm-hmm.
They'll ignore that they're the ones who did this, who set these laws and precedents and said these things and made sure it was, done in X, Y, or Z method. Keeping them poor, weak, and disenfranchised. They'll ignore that and they'll still vote for them. And they'll still vote for them today, even though that's what they're still trying to do.
Yeah.
And they focus on the fact of, well, we have this thing that was done to us wrong in the past, so we need reparations for it. And we need money to be given to slaves, or not even descendants of slaves. We just need money given to people whose grandparents were never slaves, whose grandparents were probably never slaves, but the color of their skin matches what we say it needs to match. So we need to give them money, and we need to take that money from people who never owned slaves, whose grandparents never owned slaves, whose grandparents' grandparents never owned slaves because of the color of their skin. Then we'll say it's for equality. We'll say it's to help make things better.
Mm-hmm.
It's to help right the wrongs. But the problem is, enough is never enough.
No.
You get it. You give in, and you get what you want. They get what they ask for. Then it's, well, that worked for this long, but we still have a problem here. These people were slaves and they were brought here against their will. The only way we can make this right and make it better is if we enslave white people. We've got to have white people experience the slavery and the hardships that these black people experience. Not all of them, but some of them. So, until they experience 200 years of slavery in America, it just can't be fair and equal. And they push for it, and they eventually get it. And then after 200 years, it's, well, there was another 100 or so years of unequal treatment, not having the right to vote, not having any say, when a lot of that is history being told by the people who want to tell it certain ways. They say these things, and they say, well, this is the way it was. So until white people experience the same Jim Crow laws and unfair treatment under the law, systemic racism, because power and privilege, until they experience that, then it'll be equal. You get 300 years of all this going on, and then finally they say, okay, you're equal to us. Forget the past of what we did to you. It was well deserved because of the past that happened to us. Because of what we experienced. Now we're equal. Well, the problem is you get people who say, no, you know what?
Go against.
We're not, this isn't fair. You treated us poorly, You beat us and killed us and raped us and did all this and then didn't let us have equal treatment under the law. You didn't give us, you owe us this to help bring us out of poverty. And it starts all over. And it's a vicious cycle. That's where the saying, an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. And, being hyperbolic. And,
right.
And
but it's
exaggerating a lot.
Right. But it's an honest point. Because how can what I would say from a different point of view, if you say you say, which I'm saying, for people who want to say that they're so oppressed, so there's this black culture, this. If you say you're oppressed, but at the same time you say that it should be celebrated and everybody wants to be like us, and shouldn't you want to appreciate the fact of celebrating it and understanding it, the good, bad of it,
right? And
want to harmonize and understand that. It's not, you have to, get outside of yourself and understand that it's a human condition and see that it's unfortunate that those type of events happen, but that's part of the human condition to, put others in a disposition where they feel like they can overpower you or this, that, and the other because they think they're superior to you.
Right.
And if you want your culture to really have merit and appreciation, you should be serious about it, and you should be just very understanding and just the best way I can describe it, you should just be very compassionate about it, and let other people see you for who you are, and not trying to feel hate or anything about it, because I see if you feel that way, you actually don't appreciate your culture and you don't like who you are as a person.
Right. Well,
We have to keep yes.
speaking of culture, the people who complain about cultural appropriation are just stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, they're ignorant, for one.
Mm-hmm.
They're stupid and they're self-hating. Nobody wants to appropriate culture that sucks, that's lame.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
rap music in less than a decade exploded. Why? Because it's something that people found amazing. It's something that people enjoy. People like doing stuff that's fun.
Right. You don't want to do something that's aggravating or punishing.
Right.
They don't have to, you know.
People like eating good food. They like listening to good music. They like wearing cool clothes. They like things that are fun and unique.
Yeah.
And the people who want to complain about cultural appropriation are the same people who complain about not having cultural space, not having an area that's just them, that they feel like their culture is being represented. It's like, do you want your culture represented, or do you want to bitch about cultural appropriation?
Right.
If you want your culture represented, you're gonna have to open your culture up to the world. And
Yeah,
guess what?
absolutely.
That entails people wanting to share in your culture and eat the things your culture eats, and dress the way, listen to the music, and do these things. And you know what? The people who say, well, that's black culture. Well, black culture is American culture. Sorry, but not sorry. You're Americans. Like, I hate the term African American for someone who's a fourth generational black person.
You're not really.
And not all black people are from Africa.
No.
Sorry, but if you're a black person who immigrates here from Haiti,
that's a different
and you
story.
get called an African American, I couldn't imagine something that would be more racist, but more inappropriate. I would be pissed. I'd be like, dude, I'm from Haiti. It's like somebody born and raised in Europe, whose grandparents were born and raised in Europe, whose grandparents' grandparents were, born in Europe, moving to America with a British accent, a British passport, being called African American, because all black people must come from Africa.
Right, which is nonsense, And I don't know. I think I just think, again, it's a thing with projecting your own insecurities onto something that you should be trying to have a equal examination of it and appreciation since you want to put it out in the atmosphere so much, an equal examination so people can really appreciate it. And it's just, like I'm saying, it's just a projection of insecurities that you don't maybe think that your culture is all that.
Well, I think the people who are complaining, they don't really know their culture.
They don't, right. Isn't all what they don't know it, or they don't really appreciate themselves, or they don't think it's all that great.
Right.
And they feel like for instance, Wayne using the worst side of a stereotype of rap culture as a means to get people to have a conversation about black culture. I mean, what is that,
Right. Well, and again, I don't think a race can have its own
No, I don't think so.
culture,
It's everything is mixed and just blended together. I mean, nothing is. Yeah, something is. We all have unique bonds, whether people want to admit that or not.
Right. Most people don't. Most people want to ignore the fact that we're a nation of immigrants.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Here in the United States, we are a nation of immigrants. We are many cultures brought together to make one culture.
Yeah.
We come from lots of places. It's the only place where grandparents are more likely to speak a different language than their grandchildren.
Right.
If they're immigrants.
Yeah.
Someone who moves here from Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who travels all the way here from Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
Not able to speak English. And have a family. And their grandchildren were born here who've never seen Venezuela in anything other than photos or a map. May not be able to speak the same language as their grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not 100% sure because it's things my family told me, but my great-great-great-grandfather was an immigrant on my father's side. He immigrated from Ireland. My great-great-great-great-grandmother was native, but not 100% native. She lived on the reservation and things, but she wasn't someone who was purely native.
Mm-hmm.
My mother's side is from Germany and other places like that, but there's no history of it. It's just, oh yeah, we come from here and there, but it wasn't ever thought of as that it was we're Americans.
Right.
But yet, you have other people who are like, well, I'm Asian American. Well, I'm this. It's focused on so much instead of just saying I'm an American.
Mm-hmm.
Cut and dry. I am an American. Period. The end. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. I am an American.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why that's a hard phrase or hard getting through. Just I am an American. I'm happy that I am an American. I wouldn't want to be from anywhere else but America. My parents, grandparents, great-grandparents were lucky enough to be able to come here to become Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be it. Unfortunately, my ancestors were brought here. But because of how great of a place America is, I am able to stand here and tell you how great this place is. Instead of trying to divide, oh, well, this is the black national anthem, then this is the regular national anthem. Because all it's going to lead to is the same way Black History Month and stuff did. Well, we have a black national anthem. Now we need a Hispanic national anthem, a Latino national anthem, a Latinx, a male national anthem, and a female national anthem, and this national anthem and that, so that everybody's represented.
Right.
And it'll work out the same way TV's worked out. Netflix blew up because everybody wanted one place they could go to watch all their favorite shows and favorite movies. They were tired of, well, you can't get this channel on cable. You have to have satellite. And the only satellite it works with is DirecTV, not Dish Network. You know, you have to have cable and satellite and Dish Network just to be able to watch the shows you want, because they were on channels that one company didn't get. So streaming blew up because of that, because you could just have one thing. It was inexpensive, $14 a month for Hulu and Netflix. You know, less than that when it first started. But now it's to the point of, well, you have to have this app and that app and this app. People are like, man, I just wish there was one place where I could go and just kind of watch all this stuff for free. I mean, they're showing the ads, just watch the ads and maybe not have to pay for it. And cable is making a comeback.
Right, yeah.
You know, satellite and these things are making a comeback, because now they're saying, hey, well, you know what? People are wanting to watch it on here. Let's get rid of those contracts that, you know, bind you to this one service provider and, you know, call it a day. Well, people do the same thing. You know, you have all these people who say, well, we need this and we need this, and all these things that are supposed to divide people. How you're supposed to find unity and division, I don't know. How you think dividing people into categories and races and all this stuff, religion, sex, you know, dividing people up, how that's supposed to unify people is beyond me. I haven't figured that one out. But yet, somehow, all this division is supposed to bring unity. But all it's going to do is get people saying, you know what? We are one people. We may look different. We may have different skin colors. We may have different hair types. We may have all these differences, but we are one people. We need something that's a signal of our unity, of our people. And we're going to go back to having a single national anthem, a singular national anthem, and it's going to be a fight. And that's the problem. These people who are fighting for change and all this stuff, when they see it, they argue against it. And I don't get it. I don't understand how they can do that, how they can argue for and against something at the exact same time when it benefits them greatest.
You're right. So, as you were saying, with not really wanting everything to be out on the forefront, and I would say, just like feminism, it's the whole thing of wanting something but not actually wanting it when it doesn't benefit you. So that's why I'm saying feminism is the sort of the unified example of everything of what we're saying in this instance. So, okay, so at the heart of the matter, feminism was supposed to be this whole thing of upholding women and having more opportunities for women, right?
Correct.
But at the same time, you want more opportunities. Why is it that you don't push for women to be drafted? Why is it that you don't push for women to be working really hard, laborious jobs? You know, like a brick miner, working roofing jobs, or working in the mines, or working on oil rigs, being working in waste management beyond, you know, a trash collector. You know, not doing, when I'm saying beyond a trash collector, not wanting to just be the managerial role in a managerial role, or CEO of waste management, actually being the out there and collecting the trash. Why is it that you don't want those kind of representations, right? Why not? It doesn't benefit you in the way that you see fit, right?
Right.
So
Well,
what do you think about what I'm saying in regards of?
no, it's a perfect example. Feminism started out as we want equal rights under the law. We want the right to vote. We want this, and we want all these things. What's funny is straight white men don't have the right to vote. They have the privilege of being allowed to vote.
Right. Yeah.
Women suffrage was for the equal treatment under the law. So the right to vote. Well, for men, it's not a right, it's a privilege. It's a privilege we are granted by enlisting in the draft. By enlisting for draft by our government should the need arise.
Mm.
If you do not enlist for the draft, when you turn 18, you can be denied federal aid for college.
Yeah.
You can be refused your driver's license. You do not have the privilege of being able to vote. These things that, are supposed to be equal rights. They'll tell you that everybody has them, but, men, we don't actually have them. We have to do something to be able to vote.
Right.
We have to enlist for that draft.
Mm-hmm.
But when you bring up, well, why don't women enlist for the draft? Well, we need to get rid of the draft. The draft is, ridiculous. We shouldn't have the draft in the first place. You start getting that argument. It's like, okay, but we do have the draft. The draft actually does serve a purpose of, should the need arise, you have a list of able-bodied people to call on. The country has a group of able-bodied people to call on. That is beneficial because you should be willing to fight to protect your home.
Yeah.
And if you're not, I don't believe you should have the rights at all. If you're not willing to risk your life to protect your house, do you really deserve it?
True. Absolutely.
Do you really care about it?
Yeah.
But for a lot of these people, the answer to that question is no, they don't really care. Because they were born with these rights. They've had them their entire lives. They were never told that, well, no, you can't do this because you didn't do that. So all these people have the right to vote. They all have they have these freedoms. They have these rights that they didn't, really have to do anything to get. They don't have to worry about being called on for the draft, the bucket brigade, or, concepts that are foreign to us now. That most of them we outgrew, but the only one that we still have around that still affects people is the draft. They don't care that men lose custody battles. The majority of custody battles. Even men who go out and fight for their children are more likely to lose. They're more likely to pay alimony. There's all these things that work against men. And it's like, well, feminism is about equality. Well, what equality? Equality for who? It seems a lot like feminism is about superiority, female superiority. It's a lot of misandry and things like that. And it's because they got what they wanted. And then they had to have a reason to be around still. So what they wanted changed. The goalpost changed. They moved it. Because there has to be a purpose for it. We can't just say, okay gals, we got it. They gave us everything we wanted. We're done. The fight's over. The fight can't be over, is the problem. You know, for Rambo, the war never ended. You know, that's what it is. You get a lot of these feminist women out there thinking that they're the female John Rambo.
Right.
And the battlefield just changed. The location of the battle just changed. It's now this. It's now that. You know, it's education. We need more women in education. Well, more women are in higher education than men. More women are more likely to graduate high school than men. You know, well, we need equal pay. Well, women are more likely to work less hours than men.
Mm-hmm.
They're more likely to work easier jobs that pay less than men. There's a guy who went around, you know, asking a bunch of women a question. Would you rather a high-value job, CEO of a company and all these things, for no pay, or work in a sewage treatment facility or as a garbage collector or whatnot for $100,000 a year? Lo and behold, they all said, oh, the high-value job at no pay. Like, why? Well, because it's a high-value job. I can use these skills to maybe make money, you know, this or that, all this other stuff. They didn't care about the money. They didn't care. They wanted the status of the high-value job. Like, what that actually entailed, because you ask any man, and all the men were saying, I'll be a garbage collector. I'll work in that sewage treatment facility.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because it pays $100,000 a year. And that's a high-value job to a man. Why is it a high value? Because it gets him money. What's he need money for? Women. Because men are more likely to share their resources than women. If a man gets money, he's getting money for his family. If a woman gets money, she's getting money for herself.
Right. And I would say, moving along, not to tie in everything that you're saying back to immigration. If I'm not mistaken, Betty Friedan, she was one of the founders of feminism. Okay, so you know how with immigration at the heart of the matter of everything, why people immigrate here is because of the traditions and of their goals and their set traditions of whatever that means, but a lot of it's tied back to the family, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Betty Friedan, she begged the question, well, how oppressive is it for a woman to be with tied down to a child and their whole life is for their family? What are you saying? You know, like that should be your whole purpose in your whole marriage for being a human, for being an American, to uplift and support your family and being a strong family unit and being all that you can be and better than you can be, and striving for growth and development for your family. And it's just wash it all away and just in a snub manner, oh, she's so oppressed because she has the nagging task of dealing with these children all day long, cooking, cleaning, dealing with a husband that doesn't understand her worth and merit and value, you know?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's aggravating. So, you know, like Bill Burr said, motherhood isn't the hardest job, but it is one of the most important.
Right, yeah. And that's absolutely true, and that's very well spoken for him to say that.
Well, he said it wasn't the hardest job.
Right.
I'm adding it is one of the most important.
Yeah.
So, you know, mothers literally bring into this world the next generation. Sure, the father helps for about 2.5 minutes to 5 minutes, you know. When he's younger, maybe a couple of hours.
Oh,
you know.
Come on.
But,
more,
you know, fathers, you know, they have their part in it.
Uh-huh.
The mothers bring them in. They raise them. It's a father's responsibility to rear his children, steer them in the right direction, be a good role model by showing them hard work.
Right.
Teach his daughters what to look for in a man. Teach his sons how to treat a woman. That's a father's role.
Right.
A father should teach his son how to be a good man. He teaches his son skills and lessons he needs to learn in life. He teaches him how to fish. He teaches him how to hunt. He teaches him how to make things. Even if the father is a banker working a 9 to 5, he should have a hobby where he builds something so he can show his son you can be self-reliant. And that's a big problem. We have a lot of fatherless homes, but we have a lot of fathers who didn't take the time. My dad taught me everything he could. My dad dropped out of school in the 6th grade. He was 12 or 13 years old. He dropped out and he started roofing. Well, guess what? When I was 8 years old, I was climbing up on top of roofs with him. I was carrying shingles and tar paper and, all buckets of nails and things, whatever I could do to help. Because I wanted to be close to my father. My sisters, they got to be at home. Mothers teach their children compassion. They teach their children how to be decent and proper people. They teach their sons how they should treat a woman and how a woman should treat them. They teach their sons how a woman should be in the household, and they teach their daughters how they should be in the household. They teach their daughters self-respect, and they teach their sons how to properly respect a woman. But in doing all of that, they take care of the house, the home. They make the home. There's a reason why it's called a home maker. They make the home. Fathers go out and they earn the money. The wife gets to spend it. And that's, people want to say, oh, the gender roles, the gender binary roles and this, and it's not for everybody. Sure. It doesn't have to be for everybody. But you should do your best to bring that in. They say it takes a village to raise a child, so why is everybody trying to do it by themselves is what I don't understand.
Yeah, because you can't do that. You can't do that. It'll drive you mad.
You can't be everything all at once.
No.
It takes other people. But these people are, we shouldn't be having babies. We should be the CEOs. Well, guess what? There's not even that many male CEOs.
No.
It's like, you look at the bell curve of men. There's more men there's just as many men, more men that are homeless than there are men that are CEOs. And both of those numbers are way greater than women, but you don't hear women bitching and fighting to be homeless and to be hobos. No. You don't hear women fighting and arguing to be homeless, saying they need proper representation in the homelessness or in war deaths or any of these other things that men have to deal with. And they'll say, oh, well, it's the patriarchy. The patriarchy's the reason. Oh, the patriarchy protected women? Well, yeah. It keeps women from going to fight? Well, yeah. Okay, well, cool. Women are allowed to be in the infantry now. But the moment all this stuff with Ukraine started happening, you get all these videos of females in uniform saying, well, looks like I need to get pregnant. And it's like, well, looks like the joke's on you, because now they have flight suits that are for pregnant women. So, guess you're still going. Yeah, you better be ready to have your baby in Ukraine. Get your profile, your 6-month profile, and get your butt back, because it's a new military now, or it could be where men serve, where the youngest child, the last to bear the name, is exempt from service, cannot serve. But they don't want it. Feminism ruined civilization.
Yeah, because it's the whole notion of going against evolution in nature, because No, when you get into the business, is I like to give a credit to him and the Think Before You Sleep creator, and who to the listeners, please watch his content, because a lot of his stuff is pretty valuable. But anyhow, he said it best in his points of, when you get into the business of turning a man into having female traits and a woman into having male traits, you're gonna have a lot of issues, because that goes against how we function naturally,
Right. Well, and it goes back to saying, it supports the argument of, being a mother may not be the hardest, but it is the most important.
Mm-hmm.
A man can go out and hunt with his woman and his children, at the homestead, taking care of the homestead. He goes out and risks his life to bring back game and whatever else. The mother is still teaching those children and still running things at the house while the man's gone, and the man's responsible for coming back and bringing back the plenty. A man doesn't have to be a CEO to provide for his family. He could barely get by, but with a good mother, things in the house are still good. You can have a little and feel like you have a lot. And that's where the benefit of a good mother, why being a mother is very important. Because if you have both people doing everything they can to make you, to raise you in a means, even if it's less than what the Joneses have,
right,
you will never feel
complete,
like you didn't have anything, like you were poor or broke. But the people who are, woe is me,
right,
well, it's because of this that I can't get ahead, it's because of that. You see the tropes in movies and TV shows and books and all these things, and it's because art imitates life. The people who are constantly complaining about what they don't have, ignoring all the things that they do, are the ones who are raising children who are just unaware. And that's kind of the thing. We have a lot of people who are unappreciative of the things that they do have, because either they had so much, their parents didn't, their generation before didn't choose to instill, what you have is valuable. I think that's one of the benefits for me is my father's so old. He was born in 49. His mother and father experienced World War I, World War II, the Great Depression. They were born in the 1800s. They experienced these things. I think my grandmother was born in the 20s, the 10s.
Yes, because my father's mother, she was born in 1919. So, and as I said in our previous podcast, she's the one that taught me the value of being self-reliant through cooking and everything. I learned a lot from her, and to be able to have that sort of feedback at an early age, and that carries with you, because you start to understand, if you have that sort of set mentality of, I have to, okay, I see that these things are happening to me, but if I'm self-reliant, I can get through the ebbs and flows of it. You realize, internalize things a whole lot different, because you say to yourself, I think this is just from my point of view to add on to what you're saying. But I just want to, put that out there, and so you can get to your point. Because I don't want to wait, and I want you to continue what you're saying. You tend to be more self-caring, well balanced, and you just have a wholeness about you, and people see that and respect that. And you also tend not to go with mainstream. You have critical thought process to understand and know your disposition about what you want to do with yourself. You understand that you're not perfect, but yet at the same time you want to build on that imperfection to get out of the messiness that is the human condition that we all experience, and to get to a better path.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I was saying, I think everybody should have at least 3 kids.
Yeah.
At least 3. Or more.
Yeah.
But, I'll get to why I say that. Like I was saying, my father, he was born in the 40s. So he was born at the tail end of the Depression. And then he experienced the 50s, the plenty of it. But his parents, his grandparents who are still alive, my great grandmother was still alive, up until I was, just out of toddlerhood. She was born in the 1800s. They taught him and his brothers how important it is to preserve and save and to work.
Right.
And like I said, he dropped out of school in the 6th grade and went and got a job.
Mm-hmm.
He started roofing and things like that. He instilled that into his children. Well, I've got, 4 brothers and 2 sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a big family, you learn that, you can't have everything. And everything that you do have is, if it's brand new, it's a blessing. If it's used, you're lucky to have it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get every single thing that you want, and sometimes you do get the things that you want. Sometimes you get the things that you want, but not exactly when you wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
And you also learn that you're really not that special.
Yeah.
Because everything you've done, your brothers and sisters have done as well.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I really could say I've done in my life that is quote unquote special, other than, outside of the norm, is I graduated high school. That is the most special thing, because my mother didn't graduate high school. My father didn't graduate high school. Their parents didn't graduate high school. None of my brothers and sisters graduated high school. They all dropped out as well. My other sister, Katie, she was murdered. But, I don't think my grandfather graduated high school on my dad's side. Pretty sure he didn't. My grandmother, I know she didn't graduate high school. My great-grandmother on my dad's side, she didn't even go to high school.
Mm-hmm.
She went to school until she was 16, 17.
Mm-hmm.
And then had to take care of her family.
Mm-hmm.
Got married. I think she was married at 16. And again, she was born in the 1800s, but my grandmother, my dad's mother, didn't have electricity until, I think my dad told me it was like 1944, 1943, before they got electricity to where they lived. No, they didn't have telephone, they didn't have electricity, it just wasn't available. And it was in the mid to late 40s that they got electricity, just before he was born. They didn't have AC or anything like that. So, you learn these things. You learn you're not special. You learn all that stuff. But it's from having large families, from having big families that you can learn these things. That's why I say people need 3 kids, because you don't have all the time in the world to focus on that one child. Give them everything. You're so special. You're so amazing. Because you have other children doing it. And I think that's a big problem. We have a whole generation of people who are only child or only have one other sibling.
Right. And I was an only child, but at the same time, I knew how important it was to have siblings and to have a strong family unit, because I think it's this, from my point of view, because I have a unique perspective since I was the only child. I think it's, if a lot of people are honest with it themselves, you kind of feel that emptiness and something's missing when you're only kid, because a lot of people, I can only say that from my point of view, so that's not really fair to say, but I'm sure a lot of people feel like it's more than they want to admit. You just get into that a notion of okay, is there more to this? Is there that you just feel very lonely, and you start to see, from that loneliness, I started to appreciate things a lot more and wanted to understand things a lot more. And other people, and I think that's how it's easy to go into that slippery slope of, if I'm the only child, it's me. Everybody wants to look at me. I'm the center of attention, and that's kind of never goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get out of that bubble, or I retired, to say the least, with either if it was from a 2-parent unit, 1-parent unit, what have you, and you go into the world, so to speak, and you get slapped down, you don't know what to do.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to see statistics on,
right?
What,
right,
or
we're
at
just
least
going
hear
from our personal experience. Right?
Not even that, just at least hear from other people other than you,
right,
who are single child in a single parent home,
right.
Only child in a single parent home, because it almost serves the same purpose of being a 3rd child, a 5th child,
right,
in a dual parent home, in a 2-parent home. The idea of their attention's divided so much with your other siblings. When you do get praise, it means something, and you learn the value of working for something.
Right.
The same thing goes for a single child. Single child in a single parent home. Your parents probably working so much to provide and take care of everything, that when you do get the praise and notice, it means something. You work for it because you had to work against what they're currently doing. Not only that, I would like more information on that. So anybody else who has, experience with it would be awesome if they contacted, left messages, or said something on your social media. Because that would be interesting.
Please
to know.
Do that. Yeah, I would really appreciate that.
But yeah, it's those things, like, people don't know the value, and they're not teaching value in things, why it's important to have things. That's why everybody thinks, like, well, I don't need this, I could give up this, I can give up that, I can give up my right to keep weapons and to protect myself, because the police are there, but at the same time I want to get rid of the police because of this other stuff, and I was told that that's the correct thing to do. It's, you have to value what you have, and you have to understand that if you have something that you did not work for and earn, that in some way you're going to have to work for and earn it to either keep it or maintain it. You know, I can't remember exactly how it goes, but there's this proverb story, saying, it may be from the prince, it may be, maybe from something else, but the king who fights to build his kingdom will keep it and keep his servants and keep his people happy and well through hard times and through good times. The prince who inherits his kingdom will lose his kingdom at the first hard time. Because the prince who didn't have to work for it, who didn't have to fight for it, who didn't have to do anything, doesn't understand how important his people are.
Right.
They're just his people. He's had them. But the king who had to earn the people's trust and fight with them and for them, he earned it. He deserved it.
Right.
And the people will always follow him for it. And, the first prince, they may feel the same way. They might still have some of that. But his children, who were just born into it without having to earn it, why most royal families kind of disappeared. It's like you have this group of people who, what they do but get lucky to be born, saying that they're better than you. It's why these things don't make sense. I mean, you want to talk about reparations and all these things. How about reparations from sovereignties, from kings and queens and rulers of these nations who treated people like crap, who created most of these issues? How about reparations from those people, from their lineage? I mean, hell, the royal crown still gets taxes from, the people of Europe. All the strife in Ireland and all the issues that they caused around the world, where's that? The Dutch kingdom going around in slave trades and all that, the Egyptian kingdoms, the African tribes that had kings and queens of Africa who were enslaving other people. Where are their reparations? Because I'm pretty sure a lot of people in the Congo would like to know. A lot of people in Africa who are still enslaved today, working in the cobalt mines, inhaling noxious fumes and dangerous particles with their child strapped to their chest. I would bet you those people are right and happy with their lot in life. And people can say, oh, well, whiteness is what caused that. Well, these problems existed before white people ever stepped foot in Africa. Yeah,
and then there goes without saying with I think that's the whole incentive with this the huge influx of immigrants to America. Why America is very appealing is because if you do it the right way, as I said earlier in this podcast, if you take the means, if you take the hard work and determination to be a citizen, you'll reap the benefit of it. And unfortunately, you still kind of reap the benefit of it if you don't. But there's something to that with America having so much immigration, because from both spectrums of the coin, there's something that's you get out of it. But the whole point is it's very detrimental to get something for nothing, right? So, that's why a lot of people don't understand with the immigration issue. It doesn't have to be, it's not about being racist or anything. It's just, like we're saying, it's just, if you want to be here, take the right merit to be here. Don't just think, you can inherit, as you're saying with royalty, inherit the benefit. You need to work for the benefit.
Right. Well, and you look at from the founding of the United States, during the original colonies, the people coming here, moving here, fighting against the crown, creating something new, all of that, it was a struggle to survive. 1800s, you have the Civil War, you have all this stuff leading up and through the centuries. You get into the 1900s, guess what? It didn't get easier. We started to build, we started to get better. We were still small and, poorer compared to a lot of these other places. In the 1900s, World War I, World War II, the Depression, World War II, Korea, all these things, and we start building and building, and then, we get into the 50s, and that's when, Korea and Vietnam and stuff, but we get into the 50s after World War II, and now all of a sudden we have excess. The hard times are kind of over for most people. There's tons of excess. Sure, we have our own internal stuff that we're trying to fix. Women get the vote, and going through the 60s, 70s, in segregation, in Jim Crow, civil rights movement, all of that. You get into the 80s, and then it's even more surplus. Like, people thought there was surplus in the 50s and 60s, but the 80s there was insane surplus, and it's even more. And you got to think, it took hundreds of years to build the United States, and it's only really taken 5 generations to get the United States on the brink of destruction.
Yeah, and that's very sad.
And I say 5 generations, assuming from the 50s to about the year 2000s, because that's when things just kind of started decaying. Now it's on a rapid decline, but it's not too far gone that it can't be saved. But you have a bunch of people who didn't earn it, and people will say, "Oh, well, so you're saying that just because you're born in the United States, you shouldn't be a citizen?" I'm saying no one who doesn't give something for their country should have any say in how the country goes. Everybody should have their inalienable rights. The Bill of Rights, the 13 Amendments to the Bill of Rights. Those, everyone should have those granted. Citizen, you come to the United States, you do illegally, you should have it. Now, the right to vote, the right to have a voice in the community should be earned. It's one of the things Starship Troopers really got correct. Service guarantees citizenship. You can live here, but if you want to be a citizen, if you want to have the right to vote, if you want to have a say in the community, you should have to give something to the community. I'm not saying you have to go and serve the military. That it would be one path. But serve your community. Become a fireman for your first year out of high school. Become an EMT. Go and give back to the community. Volunteering. With the misfortunate. Some giving back into the community in some way, shape, or form. Being a person of the community.
I say that too.
Get you the right to go and say, hey, you know what? I've been there. I've been of the people. I think this is what is wanted, what is needed. And if you're not willing to sacrifice for it, if you're not willing to sacrifice your time, your money, you don't deserve it.
No.
Your life. You don't have to give it up, but if you're not willing to make the sacrifice, you don't deserve it. Because we have so many, you think we have so many people in positions of power who, what they do, they've been in Congress and Senate and, government for so long that when was the last time they actually had a regular job? they leave high school, go into college, leave college, go into government, and spend their whole lives in government, never having a real job. Then their children do it. You know, you have how many children of politicians become politicians, and how they become a politician because they had someone helping them get into the business. You know, it's not like a bricklayer where you study under somebody who is a bricklayer. You learn how to lay brick. You know, a mason, you know, or a roofer, where you learn how to be a roofer by roofing. You know, you don't learn how to be a politician by being a politician. You know, your parents can't teach you how to be a politician, how to lead people, because guess what? You have to talk to people. You have to know where people come from. You know, and that's one of the problems. A lot of these people don't. And that's why it's so hard with immigration. They're like, well, we need this, we need that. It's wrong, you know, on all this stuff. Trying to lie about who's doing what and when and why and how it's all being done. Saying we need this because all it does is it makes their job easier. It keeps them in power because they get some people in that don't really know and are, you know, uneducated in our government and how it works. And so they'll say, oh, you're willing to give me this? Okay, sure, you give it to me. No matter what it does to the country around them. You look at California. California is a hellscape of horridness and people fleeing left and right to other places only to go and try to make it the same as what California was.
Right.
It's like California is going to be reborn into this, you know, Republican conservative oasis because all the people who destroyed it left, and then it's going to be built back up by a bunch of people who actually care. And those people who actually care are going to build it back up, turn it into another oasis for all the liberals and all the people who don't actually care, who just want to, you know, scratch their own back, pat their own back, go out and say, well, I did this and I did that, and I fought to give money to feed the homeless, but I didn't actually get out there and help any homeless.
Right.
You know, I didn't actually go and see if they wanted my help or needed my help, but I gave them my help. You know, it's about as bad as the Christians who go into villages that have never seen a white man and force them to follow their religion. It's about as bad as the Christians who came to the Americas and forced Catholicism, or the Catholics who forced Catholicism on Native Americans and forced them to convert to be able to get benefits,
right,
to be able to get help, to be able to have a job or do anything. You know, some of that is the most ridiculous stuff, and they're doing the same thing. They're just calling it a different name. They're going into these communities. You need my help.
Right.
I'm going to help you. You're going to accept it. If you don't do it my way, you know, if you don't allow me to help, we're not giving you anything. You don't allow us to help, we're not giving you government assistance. You don't allow us to do this, we're not going to help you raise money. You know, so that they can feel good.
That's very well said, and I really appreciate you taking the time to speak on this subject. And I'm going, you know, as I said, this is a part of a series, so please, towards the end of the month, every month, you know, check out new topics and lengthy topics between me and my husband, discussing different issues. But at the same time, I'm going to be working in the process of building up and giving more topics toward the beginning of the month where it's regular. But for right now, it's a work in progress, melding those two things together. And I really appreciate.
I just want to say, please, anybody and everybody who's listening, support my wife on Minds and through all these things. She works very hard for this, and she does so while raising our 3 beautiful children while I work. And you know, I'm doing everything I can to encourage her to do more, but you know, my encouragement goes so far. seeing the encouragement from you all, hearing it and having people comment and message, reach out in any way you see fit, let her know that she's doing great, and let her know how you feel about her, because I know she's wonderful and she can do great in this, and I would like to see other people doing it. Like I said last time, I don't have any social media, so she just kind of tells me everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I do really enjoy talking with her about these different conversations, and I'd like to continue to do it, even if we've only got 1 or 2 people listening to it.
Right, that's all that matters.
It's fun having the conversations with my wife, but if anybody is there to listen and tell her how you feel and things like that, just reach out and let her know.
I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Alright, this was the Harbor and Light. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much.